Are you looking for the absolute best minion build that you can find for season 1? You have found the right place because I have the build for you. So we're going to go through the gear, the skills, the Paragon. I'm going to show you some footage at the end of a nightmare dungeon, and then footage after that of me killing the seasonal boss on World Tier 4 when I was in my mid 70s. And I was able to just completely ignore all mechanics and just melt the boss in less than 10 seconds. So I'm going to put timestamps to everything down below, link to the build down below. So gear first, increase the maximum number of skeletal warriors by 2. You're going to want this on any of your pieces of gear. It's going to give you obviously 2 more skeletal warriors. And then we're also on the boots going to have 2 more skeletal mages. So that's going to bring our minion count up to 11. It's a minion build. You need a lot of minions, minus the golem because the golems are junk. On the chest, I went with Bone Storm, gives a barrier for 10 seconds for every single enemy that it hits. So even if you're CC'd and Bone Storm is still spinning and causing damage, it's still refreshing and generating your barrier. So even if you're taking damage, the barrier is refreshing and you're not actually going to die. This is one of the reasons why I do not have Blood Mist in the build, because it's not actually needed because of this ability right here. Down on the gloves, I threw in 50 to 120% increased damage for 6 seconds after Shadow Blight key passes damages enemies 10 times. I have a max roll of this in my aspects sitting here waiting. I'm not sure which one it is. Right there. Which is going to go on to an amulet later on whenever I get a better amulet. So this will be changing. The corpse tendrils that is on the amulet will be moving over to the gloves. And that is going to massively increase damage because it's going to go from 120% to 180%. On the pants, you're going to want as much damage reduction as you can get, total armor, and maximum life if you can get it. I was not able to get it, so I'm still waiting on a better pair of pants. But throw Disobedience onto these, gets you 30% increased armor, which is absolutely necessary for pretty much every build in the game. On the boots, again, like I said earlier, Skeletal Mages, I got double movement speed boots and movement speed when I evade, so I can feel like I'm not the slowest class in the game while still being the slowest class in the game. This is the only time I've gotten the aspect to drop. In the entire season so far, you deal 15 to 25% increased damage while you have a barrier active. Remember, we're getting barrier from Bone Storm. So every time Bone Storm is up, you're getting 20% multiplicative increased damage. This is huge. I've only had one of these aspects drop, and this is not even the best roll I can get on this weapon, because if I had critical damage instead of damage to it being affected by shadow damage over time, this would be much, much, much better. I'm still on the lookout for another aspect, and B, a better wand. But you're going to want a wand because it gives you 15% lucky hit chance, which is very needed for this build because lucky hit is probably a Necromancer's best friend. Again, on the necklace, like I said, I have the corpse tendrils on here for the critical strike chance and damage. This will be getting replaced when I get a better necklace, and hopefully I can get amplified damage instead of gloom on the necklace, because it'll be so much better because it's going to go from 12% to 24% damage increase. For the very first ring, we have Bone Prison spawns a pool of blight. Now, the damage on this does not really matter, because what really matters is Bone Prison plus blight together. That combination causes lucky hit to proc at an insanely high rate. So you want this aspect for any minion build that uses lucky hit. Oh, real quick, let me go back up here. Wrathful Heart. Each minion drains 1 to 2 essence per second, but deals 70 to 95% increased damage. This is huge. You're going to want this for this build. We don't have any essence spenders, only essence generators, and to be honest, we don't even care about those anyways. The Malignant Heart on this one is when at least one enemy is near you, you gain an aura that casts Decrepify around you in a big giant circle. So you're going to have a Decrepify aura around you. So this is why with this build, I drag the mobs on top of me to do the damage as opposed to playing at range. You can play at range, but you would have to swap this out with something else because this would not be of any use to you since you're not going to be in the thick of the fight. Then I have the Ring of Mendeln. I've had 4 of these drop in the last 9 levels. These things are very common this season, so you shouldn't have any problem getting one of these. In this, I threw in the Malignant Heart, where walking near a corpse automatically activates an equipped corpse skill. One thing to note, obviously corpse tendrils and corpse explosion are corpse skills, and those will be activated. The game prioritizes left to right, so whatever your very first ability is will be used first. So if you have Corpse Explosion on your very first ability, it's going to use that before Corpse Tendrils. So I would suggest having Corpse Tendrils first, so when you reap to get your free corpse, you Corpse Tendrils right away, automatically, for free. Doesn't use your cooldown either, and then it'll drag all the mobs in. But one other thing to note is, Raised Skeleton is not considered a corpse skill. However, if you do not have all of your minions active, it will use Raised Skeleton over Corpse Explosion and Corpse Tendrils to get all of your minions back online. So it's a very nice quality of life that was never addressed in any of the patch notes, but it is there and it is very nice. Right, and then finally, on the very last piece, we have your minions are going to take between 15 and 20% increased damage reduction. Very nice. Very nice to have. I might change out this shield sometime later on to a focus because I can get more lucky hit and it will increase my damage higher than a shield because shields only give 80% bonus to main hand damage, whereas a focus can be equivalent to main hand damage. On the Book of the Dead, we're going to go Reapers number 2, so they have a chance to spawn a corpse. Also, the wind-up swing they do every 10 seconds can proc Lucky Hit, which will then proc all of your other Lucky Hit abilities. Shadow Mages, we're going to go for number 2, so they fire an additional Shadow Bolt every 4th attack. We take Shadow Blight in this build, and they finally made it so Shadow Mages can actually trigger Shadow Blight, so it's going to be much more damage than if we were trying to use Cold Mages to try to freeze them or make them vulnerable. And then for the Golems, we sacrifice the Iron Golem for the 30% increased critical strike damage. Okay, onto the abilities. So we're going to go for Reap into Acolyte's Reap. This is going to create a corpse on the very first enemy hit and every 4 seconds after that. So you can start a fight by reaping, get a corpse tendril on top of them, drop a bone prison on top of that, everything dies. That is the general opener that you're going to want to use. If there's an elite pack, pop Bone Storm first. That way you get the critical strike chance. Well, we will get to that later. But you get the critical strike chance, you'll get the 20% damage increase, and you're going to get the barrier. So you're going to survive longer. Blight into Supernatural Blight for the 15% increased damage. 3 points into Huge Flesh so you can generate more corpses. 3 points down here into Skeleton Warrior Mastery so that the Skeleton Warriors do 45% increased damage and have more life. Bone Prison into Ghastly Bone Prison for Vulnerable. 1 point into Grim Harvest to generate 2 Essence, while we put 3 points into Fueled by Death to increase our damage by 9% for 6 seconds after consuming a corpse. This also triggers because of the Malignant Heart that's automatically popping Corpse Explosion on a 1 second cooldown. And then into Corpse Explosion, into Bloody Corpse Explosion because it's Shadow damage, which will trigger Shadow Blight. 3 points into Death's Embrace, and this is a choice. You can actually choose either Death's Embrace or Death's Reach. If you don't want to play up close and personal like I do, then you would go for Death's Reach, but I choose Death's Embrace because I like to be in the thick of things, which also buffs all of my minions because I'm close to them, so Hellbent Commander gives them a 30% increased damage increase. 3 points in Amplified Damage, so anything that's cursed from our Malignant Heart automatically casting Decrepify gives us a 12% damage increase. Go down into Abhorrent Decrepify so that you have cooldown reduction whenever you're hitting stuff with Decrepify. 3 points in Skeletal Mage Mastery for 60% increased life and damage. Corpse Tendrils into Plague Corpse Tendrils to make them vulnerable, while Corpse Tendrils itself already makes them stunned. So they're going to be stunned and vulnerable for 3 seconds, but this will also get automatically casted by the Malignant Heart, so you can actually keep them chain CC'd while you're killing them. 3 points in Necrotic Carapace because it gives a 10% damage reduction. Absolutely massive. 3 points in a Reaper's Pursuit so that you have better movement speed when you hit something with a Darkness skill, which most of your damage outside of the Ring of Mendeln is going to be Darkness damage anyways. 2 points in Aspiring Leader. Realistically, attack speed is not that big of a deal, but 3 points into Hellbent Commander gives you a 30% increased damage to your minions while you're close to them. 3 points into Death's Defense, so your minions cannot lose more than 30% of their maximum life from a single hit. So it's going to take 4 hits to kill your minions, but in that same time, you're going to have Bonded in Essence, which is going to give them the 60% maximum life heal every 5 seconds whenever you use Raised Skeleton. These two combined means that your minions should not be dying unless there's just absurd amounts of damage, like those Lightning Conduit Towers. Those things hurt. Bone Storm into Supreme Bone Storm because it's going to give you critical strike chance increased by 20%. And finally, Shadow Blight, because this is what's going to help kill mobs whenever Ring of Mendeln is not proccing. Alright, moving on to the Paragon board. Let's make this quick. I don't want to take any more of you guys' time, so we're going to make this really easy. Again, all this is going to be in a link down in the description, so you can just see that to click where to put the points. First, we're going to take Amplify. What that's going to do is going to take all of the blue nodes and buff the ever-living crap out of them. So you're going to want to put the Amplify one here because this right here is, so with these 3 nodes here, because of Amplify, we will be increasing our damage by 32.1%. Massive. Very first board, you're going to go for Scent of Death because you're going to be near corpses all the time, which means 15% damage reduction. At the beginning of the fight, there's not going to be any corpses nearby, so you're going to start fights with 15% increased damage. You're going to come up here, you're going to grab the Control Glyph. This is going to make it so any mobs that are crowd controlled are going to take increased damage. Also, your minions are going to do 10% increased damage to slowed and 20% increased damage to stunned targets. Next board we're going to take is Flesh Eater. Consuming 5 corpses is going to grant 40% increased damage for 6 seconds. You are going to be constantly consuming corpses, so this is going to be up 100% of the time through every single fight. Even if you're CC'd, your Malignant Heart will still consume corpses. Scourge Glyph up next, so this makes it so you do a little bit more shadow damage over time. That's not a big deal, but you and your minions deal multiplicative 10% increased damage to enemies affected by shadow damage over time. If you see like a 10% and a little X in brackets afterwards, that means it's multiplicative instead of additive. Keep that in mind whenever you're looking at any of these stats. Final board we're going to take here is Wither. We're not actually going to go down and take Wither because we don't really care about that. But we do come in and grab Gnawing Darkness and all of the rare nodes around it because it gives damage to elites and damage to enemies affected by shadow damage over time, which all of them will be anyways. And the final glyph we put in is Imbiber, and this is going to make it so you do increase damage while healthy. And whenever I hit 15 with this, mine's only 11 at the moment, I'm going to grab more willpower nodes and it's going to massively skyrocket the damage. So as you level it up, the amount increased per 5 willpower goes up, and as you get more willpower, obviously it's going to go up more and more. So this is, whenever it's all said and done, probably going to be close to 100% damage while healthy. I'm going to throw in some gameplay footage at the end of me doing Nightmare Dungeon and killing the seasonal boss and showing you just how fast this is on killing bosses. This is probably Bone Spear plus level of damage for killing bosses. So hope you've enjoyed the build. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Really helps the channel grow. I'm almost at 400 subscribers. I'm trying to get to 1,000 in the next like 6 months. I'm trying to be realistic and not trying to be like, I want 1,000 tomorrow. But it helps the channel out. It helps me out, and I really do appreciate it. So if you could drop a sub down below, and I will see you in the next video. Hope you love the build.